definitely think more people should be reading this series. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and today, guys, I've got a why you should read. But before we get into that, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help us grow. And while you're doing all of that, make sure to check the description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, as well as links to all my social media, including information about my Patreon. Now, guys, today we are talking about the Royal Champion series by G.M. White. And guys, this entire book series is a delight to read. How do I sell you on this series? I got to really think about this because I really want to do it justice. Essentially, this series is called The Royal Champion, and it follows a fencer or soldier by the name of Belasco, who serves as the king's champion in the city-state of Valan. Valan has been at war over the last 20 to 30 years with a neighboring nation called Baz. Or I think Baz is the shortened name. But anyway, they don't get along. They're both militaristic. They've got relatively similar militaries. But basically, prior to the start of the story, Belasco earned a lot of renown as a warrior when he single-handedly stopped a kind of invading force of Baz soldiers at a pass. Like, basically, they were trying to sneak into the country to do a surprise attack, and he happened to be there. There was a pass. It made everybody come in single file, and he just, for a day, sat there and dueled people, and he won a lot of renown. And as kind of a commoner, he won acclaim at the court and became the king's champion. And so that's kind of the history of the story. And we've got 2 books and a novella. We've got The Swordsman's Lament and The Swordsman's Descent as the main books of the series. And then we've also got The Swordsman's Intent, which is a prequel novella. Prequel novella takes place, I believe, a couple years after the Pass incident. Dellen's Pass is, I believe, what that incident is called. And it kind of details him being called in and tested with a bunch of other renowned swordsmen because the current Royal Champion is retiring, and Belasco is one of those candidates. And then we kind of see in Swordsman's Intent the events that happen over in Swordsman's Lament, which I believe the Swordsman's Lament is that, it's every duelist's inevitable fate to come against a better swordsman. And so that's always in their mind. They kind of distance themselves from relationships and things of that nature. Belasco is a very loyal subject. He sees himself as friends with the royal family. And so he always kind of keeps himself very private, very reserved. And because of that, he's led a very lonely life, but he's getting older in Lament. And so that it's always on his mind is, when will I run into that swordsman who just happens to be a little bit faster than me? And then there is, of course, a mystery element to the series. There's always kind of a whodunit type of deal. Because essentially, one night, the Belasco's having dinner, and we're talking Swordsman's Lament here. One night, Belasco is having dinner with the royal family after trying to find a new cook for the royal kitchens. And then a couple days later, the prince comes up dead, and Belasco is implicated in the death of the prince, and he has to prove his innocence, and that means escaping from jail and going on, an adventure to try and figure out why he's being framed for this crime and what is going on. It's a very, very, very fantastic read. And then, of course, we get into Swordsman's Descent, which takes place 4 years after the events of Lament. And we really see Belasco starting to feel his age here. He's suffering from arthritis. He's suffering from pain in his foot. Things are starting to come up with him, and he is desperate to find a replacement. There are some peace talks going on between Valan and Baz. There's a lot of intrigue in there. We're still kind of dealing with the events from the first book, and of course the novella, because it all kind of ties together, and it's just absolutely fantastic. In terms of reading order, I do want to kind of touch on this. In terms of reading order, I would say read Swordsman's Lament first, then go back and read Swordsman's Intent, because it kind of refocuses the book and puts it in a new perspective, because it is a prequel. But I don't necessarily suggest, for me, I don't suggest starting with the prequel. You 100% can do that, and it won't affect the story at all. That's just the way that I did it, and it's fantastic. Now, some elements of the story that I kind of want to talk to you about is in terms of like elements. So we have an LGBTQ plus main character that is just done to utter perfection. We really get to identify with Belasco and his situation. We are dealing with kind of a 17 to 1800s style society, and so he kind of keeps himself very private. He keeps himself away from romantic entanglements. So there's nothing super graphic in here. There's not a lot of full-on Eminem romance and stuff like that. But the elements are there. They are done tasteful. This is an experience of a human's journey through life and his struggles. And I just love the way that this is presented. In terms of fantasy elements, because of course I am a fantasy reader. Most of the time. I do read some historical fiction and some sci-fi. But in terms of the elements of the story, there's very little magic. It's very, very light on the magic. It's set in a completely fictional, setting, but at the same time, there's some magic, but it's kind of in the background, just waving its fingers at you a little bit. It's there, but the main aspect is on the mystery, on the political machinations, on the duels, the sword fighting. There aren't wizards and stuff like that. There are people. There's a shaman who pops up a couple times, and there's some stuff that might be magic, but it's just kind of briefly it's there. It's a part of this world, but that's not the focus. So if you're somebody who's looking to kind of dip their toe into fantasy, this is a great starting point. Mainly because it's just done to where it's yeah, there's magic here, but it's definitely not the main draw. The fencing is fantastic. Watching Belasco be Belasco is just so good, and his interactions with all of the characters is fantastic. I really love the royal family. Liliana is an absolute delight. Just dealing with Anirin and all of his friends and stuff like that is fantastic. One of the things I loved about Descent is we get a lot of characters who are in Intent, but missing in Lament kind of show up back in Descent. Did I do that correctly? Who knows? It's fantastic. It's a delight to read, and it's just so good. I do want to kind of talk about, my typical breakdown of the series. I'm going to apply the stuff that I would normally do in a book review for my Why You Should Read. In terms of structure and pacing, I think it's fantastic. I'm going to give each a 4 out of 5 because they move really well, but it's not too rushed. It's still quick moving though, because sometimes it's life or death situations. And it's fantastic. In terms of story for me, if we're going in Intent and Lament, sorry, they're so similar that I have to freeze, pause and take a moment. In terms of those stories, I'm going to give them probably a 3.5 out of 5. Just because they kind of work together off of each other. And then when we get to Descent, I'm going to give that a 4.5 out of 5. I loved the story and just the themes within Descent. And speaking of themes, we're going to do themes. I haven't really done themes here. In terms of actual themes, I'm going to do a 4.5 out of 5. I loved the themes of this story. I loved the struggles. I loved the reasoning. I loved the revenge plots. I loved all of that. If we're going to go action, action's kind of fun. 3.5 out of 5. Instead of a darkness scale, I'm going to do an emotion scale on this one. The emotion in this story is very high. I'm going to give that one a 4.5 out of 5. It's not going to keep you sobbing, but you are going to sympathize with Belasco in his struggles and his trials and his tribulations and things of that nature. Very solid, very good. Highly recommend. In terms of characterization, I'm probably going to do 4.5 to a 5 out of 5. You really get to know who Belasco is, what's going on, why he is the way he is, the way he feels. He makes blundering mistakes. Sometimes he let his mouth get away from him. Other times he's very poised. He is definitely a character. It's fantastic. Overall, I love this story. I think I forgot to mention prose. Obviously I love the story. I'm doing a Why You Should Read. Prose is a readable 3.5 out of 5. Love it. There was a couple words I had to look up, but not really too bad. Overall, guys, like 4.5, 5 out of 5. Like, I have so much enjoyment in this series. If I'm doing my enjoyment, it's a 5 out of 5. Like, I loved just experiencing these stories. These were very much comfort reads for me. I enjoyed coming back and spending time with Belasco. I cannot wait to read the future releases in this series. I think there's at least a couple more planned. There may be more. I mean, I know the author has, like, other stuff on his plate. We all have lives and stuff like that. And he said he wants to continue writing more of these stories, but it's just going to be how it comes. But right now, you have got 2 fantastic books and a great novella to just sink your teeth into. I love these books. Let me know in the comments down below if you have checked these out, if you've heard of them, if your interest is piqued. Please let me know. And that's all I've really got for you today, guys. So until next time, peace out, stay magical, bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.